Welcome to the NASCAR Live Chat with Hamm. Today we're going to talk about the STP 500 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race ran at Martinsville this past Sunday. If you don't know me, my name is David Hamm. I'm a 25-year retired NASCAR engine builder. Recently retired about 5-6 months ago. Owner of Hammscapes Landscaping Equipment Repair and restorations, you name it. I work on all kinds of stuff, like this old Ford tractor right here behind me. It's 62 Ford. I've got a 54 Ford I'm working on, a Jeep, a 65 Thunderbird. Anyway, always working on something. I also do radio personality, Hamm on WAME radio and the WAME Chillbillies. So subscribe for more chats like this every Monday night, typically the day after the race during NASCAR season. And I've got a bunch of stuff coming up for all season also. But today we're going to talk about the race that happened at Martinsville. We're going to go over the finishing order for the STP 500. We're going to go lap by lap, point standings, and we're going to do some cold beer, warm beer, and then kind of a little Texas AAA 500 preview for this coming weekend. So first up, the finishing order is, of course, Martin Truex won the race. We know that. William Byron second, Brad Keselowski third, Denny Hamlin fourth, Ryan Blaney fifth, Kurt Busch sixth, Kevin Harvick, Joe Logano, Kyle Larson, and Ryan Newman rounding out the top 8. So the top 10, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about 8. The points is what I have on my brain right now because, we're getting down to the wire. We're starting to lose some of the Fords in the points. We started out, we had 5 up there contending. Now it's just the Toyotas seem to take over, and I think it's got all of us Ford fans really frazzled. So we had 2 Toyotas in the finishing order. We had 5 Fords, which is promising, but it wasn't that most important spot, which is number 1. And then we had 3 Chevrolets. Martin Truex won all 3 stages. Just get that out of the way. You could tell I'm a little bit frazzled. I know that Paul Rodriguez has been hyped up this week, and after all that race, he's been hyped up for the past 2 weeks. So, and Rachel Rodman after last week, so it's like all of our good Ford people are getting a little frustrated here. So we're hopefully going to get it back on track, so to speak. And Tom Robinson and Terry Quinn and D-Lo, and thanks everybody for tuning in. So lap 1 led by pole sitter Denny Hamlin, who has won at Martinsville 6 times now. Let's see, the 6th, the 32, and the 55, 77 moved to the rear for failing pre-race tech. The 9 car to the back for an engine swap. He qualified second originally, in second place. So by lap 29, Martin Truex leads the race. Lap 115, Martin Truex puts off playoff contender Kyle Larson, put him a lap down that early in the race, 115. So let's see. Stage 1 winner was Martin Truex, as I mentioned. By lap 128, there was a stage break. Truex comes out on the front and Kyle Larson back on the lead lap. So he got his lap back. And 183 reports Chase Elliott has broken an axle. The 9 car heads to the garage after a few more laps of sitting on pit road trying to get it fixed. Truex still in the lead in lap 200. Elliott is now in 37th place and still in the garage. So he ended up coming back out 34 laps down. And then will likely, that was by lap 215. And by lap 238, he came back on track 52 laps down. And he will most likely have to win one of these next races to advance to the Final Four. Let's see, Blaney has closed to within a 0.6 of a second on leader Truex. Logano is now hot on the tail of the teammate Blaney for second. This is around lap 238. Truex now has led 262 laps, which is equal to the amount of laps that he led at Martinsville since the start of his Cup career. So he surpassed that, doubled it. Lap 305, Truex lead over Logano is now 3.5 seconds. By lap 331, Truex, Kyle Busch, Hamlin, and Logano are now above cutoff line. Let's see, lap 340, Bubba Wallace is having an awesome day in 10th place. 361 a caution for a pileup, and 10 for the 10 and the 18 also involved 47 and 48. And by 375, the 10 and the 48 cars are out of the race. This right here was probably the biggest moment of the race, in my opinion. But lap 456, there was damage to Logano's car after Hamlin pushes him up into the wall, and Logano cuts down a tire and eventually spins out, still staying off the wall. You know, the announcers kept saying, Logano, into the wall, you know, and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know. They were somewhat dramatizing it. But, you know, you could definitely, you know, they were also saying that, you know, Hamlin's doing this. And then they started talking about the race whenever Truex and Logano were coming to the finish line, you know, and banging on each other. And Logano ended up winning. They were basically trying to say this was payback for that. So, you know, the announcers tend to get a little overexcited there, especially when a Toyota's winning. So Martin Truex, he won the race. You know, this was his 7th win of the season with 26 wins of his career, but he led 464 laps of the 500, and JGR led 99% of the race. So that was that. Now the point standings have Martin Truex leading, Denny Hamlin, then Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, rounding out the top 8 in the points. So we have 3 Toyotas, 3 Fords, and 2 Chevrolets. So that's that. I'm thinking, though, coming up to Texas this coming weekend, we're going to have the Fords are going to shine at that track because it's the 1.5-mile tracks, and Texas has been one of the good tracks to Ford over the years. So that's, you know, here's an old piston I was going to show y'all that I actually had from when I did an engine for the 38 car, which was Elliott Sadler, and he won the 150 race down in Daytona, and it was in 2005. But the pistons used to be a lot smaller now. I've actually got a newer piston. I probably don't really want to show it on here due to my loyalty from my old teammates at Roush Yates Engines. But it was from whenever Logano won and had Logano sign the top of the piston. But one of these days I'll show that to y'all. But this one right here is okay. It's safe to show because it's an old plate, restrictor plate piston. And we don't use the restrictor plates anymore. We use the tapered spacer. But as you can see, the inside of the piston. But one of the biggest things is how short this skirt is. You know, these engines we used to build for those is basically they were a different animal back in the day. All right, look at the small little wrist pin hole there, just the size of my pinky. Yep. And all these windows are basically lightning areas where they go in and lighten the piston. So there's rules actually to the weight of the piston now. You can't do that type of lightning. Well, you can do the lightning, but the piston has to weigh a certain amount. I think it's 425 grams or 400 grams or something like that. I'm not sure what it was over the past couple years. That may have changed. Okay, so in other NASCAR news, we have William Byron just unveiled his Hertz paint scheme. Hertz has re-signed for 2 more years. Jimmy Johnson, you know, this is kind of odd. This is his 2nd year. He's had Ally. He has 0 wins, 4 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and he got a sponsor renewal with Ally. So it basically seems like Ally's renewing with Hendrick Motorsports for 2 more years. So because Jimmy, you know, he's not really sure what he's going to do, if he's going to keep racing. Let's see, he is winless in 93 races and not even certain if he's returning, and the company's signed Bowman for 10 years when he has ran for 5 years with 1 win, 9 top 5s, and 25 top 10s. All right, so if you've ever wondered about the old Petty Blue, so Richard Petty recently was on Dale Jr.'s podcast and told of how the now famous Petty Blue came about. They didn't have enough paint to paint the car, so they mixed some blue paint and some white paint, and thus the Petty Blue was born. So it has been talked about color since the most talked about since 58 or 59, I would say. So we got some stuff going on at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is all a part of them trying to bring in more fans. The new Thrill Zone will get fans up close and personal at Atlanta Motor Speedway. They'll be able to hear the roar, the feel the rush, and see the exciting action like never before. All ticket holders will get access to the new Thrill Zone. This puts fans away from the racing surface, or feet away from the racing surface, which Atlanta, if you've been there and you're anywhere close to a racing surface at Atlanta, which the pits are pretty close, it seems like it anyway, because that track is fast. I'd always say that track separates the driver with the big ones versus the drivers that can be scared. I remember going there with Sterling Marlin, and he wasn't scared. He was hammered down at Atlanta. So the Thrill Zone is the 8th fan enhancement announced as part of the Speedway's 20 and 20 initiative improvements to increase the value and fan enjoyment for 2020. So we'll see how that goes. Congratulations to Hut Strickland, our buddy, on being selected to be inducted into the Alabama Auto Racing Pioneers Hall of Fame. Clifford Allison is also to be inducted. So we had Hut Strickland came over and was hanging out here in the shop with, we had Tom Robinson down from Indiana, and we had Chad Hyder down from Virginia, and Rachel Rodman up from Charlotte. And then a bunch of my other friends came over, and we were all hanging out here. That was a good time, good party. And and we had, Paul Rodriguez and Kit. Y'all should come up for that next time we have a little party like that. Okay, so here's kind of cool. National Motorsports Press Association honors Kurt Busch for his ticket program for military members. And I was actually looking that up. I believe that's where Kurt Busch was getting some, Kurt Busch is selected recipient of the National Motor Press Association Pocono Spirit Award for his work with military members and their families. Busch has made 100 race tickets available to military personnel for every Cup race this season. How cool is that? So, yeah, very happy to hear that, because anytime we can support our military, you know what, they keep us safe. They're what keeps this country being the free country that we are, and sacrificing their life for that. So thanks to the military very much. And thanks to Kurt Busch for doing that. It's very cool. So the Munster Mile Dover is reducing its seating capacity by 29,000 seats, going from 83,000 seats to 54,000 seats. So we were talking about that the other day, mentioning how, why do they do that? And I think a lot of it has to do with, for one thing, you're paying more insurance as a track to have more seats. You're paying more taxes on each one of those seats. If you have venues and you don't know how many people are coming, you can, over guesstimate. And then if you don't have 20,000 people show up, and you got that many seats empty, it's hard to plan for that stuff. So I guess there's just a way of removing seats. I remember being at Bristol and thinking, could they the place would be completely packed. This is back in the 90s and at the end of the 90s. And there would be like not even a single place left, hardly. But I'll be like, okay, well, there's a slot. They could put some seats right up in that corner. And eventually they did. And I believe eventually they ended up taking some more out because of the attendance has been going down over the years so much. A lot of people watch on TV. A lot of people watch online now. So Matt Tifft, I don't know if y'all heard about him. He was transported to a hospital, replaced by Matt Crafton last weekend, and they weren't saying exactly what happened with him. The rumor was that he had some type of a seizure. So he was released from the hospital, but still uncertain what happened. But he had a brain tumor removed in 2016. Earlier this year, he had a bout with vertigo. So then today, we got some breaking news on that. He had suffered a seizure. He had an MRI and a CAT scan. It doesn't show that his tumor came back. But, we wish Matt Tifton the best. Hopefully everything will work out good with him and he'll get back in the car, the 36 car. So John Hunter Nemechek is going to drive the 36 Ford this weekend at Texas, making his Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series debut. And I believe he's going to finish out the season in that car, if I'm not mistaken. At least or the next few, or 3 races, something like that. So Chase Elliott suffers a major catastrophic engine problems and catches fire during the first practice. That is his second engine that has blown in the last 4 weeks. And he lost an engine at Dover 4 weeks ago. Let's see. Some crew members swaps are happening at Penske Racing starting this week. Brad Keselowski's pit crew will now pit for Ryan Blaney. Blaney's pit crew will pit for Keselowski, except for the Jackman and a tire carrier moving to Logano's team. So Penske's Travis Giesler on over-the-wall changes. He says it's really hard just in an effort. It's really just in an effort that we're doing everything that we can as a company to give the 2 teams the best shot we can. Anyone remember the pit crew swap with the Robert Yates Racing? I was just thinking about that earlier today whenever they hired the Jeff Gordon's crew, the Rainbow Warriors. I remember that being a big deal back in the day. Okay, so rookie points right quick. We got the tie between Ryan Preece and Daniel Hemrick right now at 467 points. And then we got Matt Tifft at 352 points. Danny Stockman will be released as the crew chief for the number 3 RCR Cup car at the end of the season. Justin Alexander will return as his crew chief. Another weekend increase in viewership for the NASCAR Cup Series. Sunday's race at Martinsville produced 5% more viewers than in 2018. Let's see what else is going on. We were talking about the fight, scuffle, pushing match, whatever you call it, with Joe Logano and Denny Hamlin this weekend. So despite a TV report, no drivers called to the NASCAR hauler. Steve O'Donnell told on NASCAR's Sirius XM, although Logano and Hamlin won't be fined, a crew member may be fined as he slammed Hamlin to the ground. O'Donnell said that that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Came out as breaking news. 3:30 Monday, NASCAR suspends Team Penske crew member David Nichols involved in a fight on pit road at Martinsville Speedway. So I'm going to go into the cold beer, warm beer right quick. And Martin Truex, cold beer, Martin Truex, who had not won a short cup race prior to this year, has now won 3 of 6 and led 464 of 500 laps there at Martinsville. It's supposed to say he hasn't won a short track race prior. Matt Crafton, who finished 25th, ran the car for Matt Tifft, who had also suffered a medical issue. David Reagan finished for a season high of 11. So those are all the cold beers. And we're going to do an honorable mention root beer for the 16-year-old Sam Mayer of GMS in the Gander Outdoor Truck Series, who won Stage 2 of the race at Martinsville, and only his second Truck Series race of his career, and led 33 of 94 laps. That's the number of races he will run will be announced at a later date. You know, it kind of reminded me of the old Casey Atwood, and so we're going to do a little quick thing on him in just a minute. So warm beer, Chase Elliott is in a must-win situation after suffering his engine failure. Jimmy Johnson in the wrong place, the wrong time. Couldn't avoid Eric Almirola. He finished last. Clint Boyer ran well. Various issues put him in 35th place finish. And crew members, it's one thing for drivers to go after each other, but for a crew member to go after a driver, not too good. And we were talking about that with Logano's crew and the Hamlin scuffle thing going on. You know, the crew members kind of need to stay out of it. They just need to back away. Let the drivers, you know what I say? Everybody stay out of it. Let the drivers, if they want to punch each other, let them punch each other. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's almost like you get all these people jumping in there, and people, you know, you had the crew member grab Denny Hamlin and kind of like slam him to the ground. I get it, but you know what? If I were a driver and my crew came up and grabbed the other driver, I'd be mad, because I'd be like, you know what? Are you trying to say that I can't take care of this myself? Back in the day, drivers used to take care of it themselves. But you didn't have so many media and You didn't have as many crew members. You didn't have all that stuff. All right. So that's that. Yeah, we were talking about Casey Atwood. You know, yeah, if anybody remembers Casey Atwood, he was the youngest in the Xfinity Series history to win a pole at 17 years old. So I was going to do kind of like a where are they now kind of thing. So he won in 1999. He won the Die Hard 250 at Milwaukee at the age of 18 years, 313 days, making him the youngest winner in Xfinity history. The record would later be broken by Logano at 18 years and 21 days. Atwood's performance labeled him as the next Jeff Gordon. This landed him a ride as a Dodge driver for Hamm Motorsports in 2001, but struggles over 2 years derailed his Cup career at the age of 22. So he ran 75 Monster Energy races in 4 years with 0 wins, 4 top 10s, 10 poles, or 1 pole, and 4 top 10s. He ran 158 Xfinity races over 10 years. Okay, he didn't run in the Xfinity Series. He ran in the Busch Series, but the article said Xfinity. With 2 wins, 30 top 10s, and 6 poles. He ran 4 Truck Series races over 2 years. And after moving away from NASCAR, Casey ran late models in the 2012 at the Nashville Speedway for Sterling Marlin. All right, let's roll into Texas now. We got the Texas AAA 500. The inaugural race took place November 6, 2005. The race has always started late in the afternoon, gone through sunset and twilight, and ended under the lights at night, much like the Coke 600 in May. So it is considered a night event, just like the 600 basically. So the driver with the most wins was Jimmy Johnson at Texas. Most wins by a team, Hendrick Motorsports, with 9. And the most wins by manufacturers, 14, of Chevrolet, of course, with that many Hendricks and Jimmy Johnson. The first winner there was Carl Edwards driving for Ford and Roush H engines. If you like one of these shirts, I'll try to put a link somewhere here and there, and you can get one of these shirts, by the way, of Ford's. Kevin Harvick won his race, this race last year. This very race, Kevin Harvick won last year. So maybe that should be my prediction for Kevin to win again. All right, the race was acquired as a result of the Furco lawsuit, which forced NASCAR to relinquish the sport's 4th major, the Mountain Dew Southern 500, and in the process end the Grand Slam, which, if you remember the old Grand Slam, that was the Daytona 500, the Winston 500, the Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500. Back in the late 90s, back in the days of when you had the Winston Million and all that good stuff. But anyway, I got to run, take my wife to the doctor. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see y'all later. Please hit that subscribe, hit that like button, or click on that like, and hit the bell notification to stay tuned in to whenever I do these chats every Monday evening typically. Just been a little busy here lately, but I'm going to keep doing it every week during NASCAR season, and then we'll do some stuff, different things in the off season. So thanks everybody so much for tuning in, and we will catch you later.